Good morning, children. So, in the last period, we have started to discuss about the a closer look administration and consolidation under the Khaljis and Tughlaqs. In this point, we have seen that how the sultans preferred their slaves rather than their sons, as well as we have seen that how the officials of the Sultan Muhammad Tughlaq were there, or from which social background the people were elected or selected as the officials, that we have seen in the in this point. And as well as we have also understood the meaning of ikta or mukti or iktidar or muktis. All these things we have seen. We have understood the meaning of ikta. Ikta means the what? Ikta means the lands which were given to the governors for taking control over it and collect the revenues. So ikta means the land, and the land holder or the ikta's holders were called as the iktadar. So all these things we have seen in the last period. As well as we have also seen that how the muktis work or revenue collections were uh, assessed by the accountants which were appointed by the sultans that time. Now we are going to see the another paragraph of this chapter. In the same point, the administration of the in the sultan's empire. So, as the Delhi Sultans brought the hinterland of the cities under their control, they forced the landed chieftains, the Samanta aristocrats, and rich landlords to accept their authority. Under Alauddin Khalji, the state brought the assessment and collection of land revenue under its own control. The rights of the local chieftains to levy taxes were cancelled, and they were also forced to pay taxes. The Sultan's administration measured the land and kept careful accounts. Some of the old chieftains and landlords served the Sultanate as revenue collectors and assessors. There were three types of taxes: one on the cultivation called kharaj, and amounting to about 50% of the peasants' produce; two on the cattle; and third is on the houses. So in this way, the Delhi Sultans brought or typified the taxes. What they did actually, they brought the hinterland under their control, and they forced the landed chieftains, those who were the landed chieftains were there, those who were having the chiefs, those who were having the lands towards them. They forced the sultans forced the landed chieftains, or the samantas and aristocrats and rich landlords. These kind of people were forced to accept the authority of the sultan. Under Alauddin Khalji, the state brought the assessment and collection of land revenue. So when there was the rule of the Sultan Alauddin Khalji, he brought the system of assessment of the collection of land revenues. Means whatever the land revenue was collected by different officials in the we can say in the Sultanate, this revenue was assessed by the assessment officials. The rights of the local chieftains to levy taxes were cancelled. So whatever the rights were there to levy the taxes on the people of the land, these all the rights of levy the taxes onto the people was cancelled by the sultan and its administration. And the sultan's administrators measured the land and kept careful accounts of whatever the chieftains or the people or the officials were having the lands to collect the revenues. So that lands complete measurement was taken by the sultan's administrators. Some of the old chieftains, like landlords, served the sultanate as revenue collectors. So many of the, or some of the old chieftains worked as the revenue collectors under the sultanate. Means under the sultan's rule, many of the old chieftains and landlords served as the revenue collectors only, not as the landholders. So there were three types of taxes which were initiated by the sultan. What kind of taxes were there? First, on the cultivation, that is called as the kharaj. Means whatever the percent or the whatever the quantity of the cultivation will come out, or the yield will come out, from that yield 50% of the part of the produce will be given to the sultanate from the peasants production. Second was on cattle. Means whatever the cattles were there, some of the milk or the cattles or the production from the milk, or whatever the different kind of things are produced from the cattles, was given to the sultanate, some part of that, as well as taxes were also levied on houses. Means if the people are having the cattle or houses, or they are producing crop in their farms, they were giving all this to some part of it to the sultanates. So in this way, three type of taxes were there. It is important to remember that large parts of the subcontinent remained outside the control of the Delhi Sultans. It was difficult to control distant provinces like Bengal from Delhi, and soon after annexing southern India, the entire region became independent. Even the Gangetic Plain, there were forested areas that Sultanate forces could not penetrate. Local chieftains established their rule in these regions. Sometimes rulers like Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq could force their control in these areas, but only for a short duration. So here it is said that it is important to remember that mostly large part of the subcontinent remained outside the control of the Delhi Sultans. Means most of the part of the Indian subcontinent was not under the control of Delhi Sultan. So we can simply say that it was out of the control of the Delhi Sultan. It was difficult. Why it was out of control of the Delhi Sultans? Because it was difficult to control distant places or distant provinces like Bengal from Delhi. And soon after annexing southern India, the entire region became independent. So as the Bengal is there, Bengal is so far from the Delhi, and therefore it is very difficult to control over there. And there, in the same way, the other parts of the country is also difficult to control. And therefore, soon after annexing southern India, the entire region became independent. The entire southern part became independent. Even in the Gangetic Plain, there were forested areas. Means in the nearby the Gangetic Plains, or whatever the tributaries or main river of the Ganga is flowing from, whatever the forests were there on that land, that forested areas, that Sultanate forces could not penetrate. So these areas of the Gangetic Plain were not penetrated by the military of the Sultan. That means most of the part of the Gangetic Plain was also out of control of the Sultan. Local chieftains were there. These local chieftains established their rule in this region wherever the Sultanate or Sultan could not control the region. Although in all those regions wherever the Sultan was not able to penetrate with their forces, those regions were controlled by the local chieftains. Sometimes rulers like Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq could force their control in these areas. All these areas which were not under the control of the other sultans, these were the sultans like Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq enforce their control in these areas, but that was also for a very short period of time. Now, the next thing that we are going to see is chieftains and their fortifications. In this point, we are going to see that how the chiefs of these regions, where the people could not, where the sultans could not control that areas of the chieftains, we are going to see. So, Ibn Battuta, a 14th century traveler from Morocco, Africa, explained that chieftains sometimes fortified themselves in mountains, in rocky, uneven and rugged places, as well as in bamboo groves. In India, the bamboo is not hollow, it is big. Its several parts are so intertwined that even fire cannot affect them, and they are on the whole very strong. The chieftains live in these forests, which serve them as ramparts, inside which are their cattle and their crops. There is also water for them within, that is rainwater, which collects there. Hence, they cannot be subdued except by powerful armies who, entering these forests, cut down the bamboos with specially prepared instruments. So, here it is mentioned that there was a chronicler or a traveler, not a chronicler, we can say he was a traveler, Ibn Battuta. Ibn Battuta was belonging to the Morocco, which is situated in the Africa. So the Ibn Battuta is belonging to Morocco of Africa. He explains in his travelogue that chieftains sometimes fortified themselves in mountains. So they were fortifying, many of the chiefs were fortifying themselves into the mountains, in rocky, uneven and rugged place, as well as in bamboo groves. So these chieftains, these regional chieftains, were fortifying themselves into the mountains, sometimes in the rocky or uneven rugged places, as well as in the bamboo groves. In India, bamboo is not hollow, it is big. Its several parts are so intertwined that even fire cannot affect them. That means whatever the bamboo grows are there in India, it is not hollow, it is so dense. Many bamboos are many bamboos are completely intertwined in itself. Intertwined, we can say, so mixed and so dense that even the fire cannot affect them, those who are inside the fire grows. And they are on the whole very strong. All these bamboos are very strong, and the chieftains live in this forest, which serve them as ramparts, inside which are their cattle and their crops are there, and it is completely protected with the help of this kind of bamboo grows. There is also water for them. Within that is rainwater, which collects there. Hence, they cannot be subdued except by powerful armies. So, these regional chieftains were living in such areas which was completely difficult to, subdue except by powerful armies. Means, without powerful armies, it was very difficult to subdue these kind of local regional chieftains who were ruling in those areas where the sultans were not able to rule. And in this way, we can say the local chieftains were ruling in these areas. Now we are going to see further. So the Mongols under Genghis Khan invaded Transoxiana in the northeast Iran in 1219, and the Delhi Sultanate faced their onslaught soon after. Mongol attacks on the Delhi Sultanate increased during the reign of Alauddin Khalji and in the early years of Muhammad Tughlaq's rule. This forced the two rulers to mobilize a large standing army in the Delhi, which was which posed a huge administrative challenge. Let us see how the sultans dealt with this. So here it is said that the Mongols under Genghis Khan. Who were the Mongols? Mongols were coming from the China. Mongol people were coming from the China. So Mongol under the Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan was the we can say the was the ruler of the Mongol dynasty, and he invaded Transoxiana in northeastern Iran. In the Arabian region, he invaded the northeast Iran in 1219, and the Delhi Sultanate faced their onslaught soon after. Just after 1219, when Transoxiana was invaded by the Genghis Khan, just after that, the Delhi Sultanate also faced the onslaught soon after. Just after the attack onto the Transoxiana in the northeast of the Iran, and Mongol attack on Delhi Sultanate increased during the reign of Alauddin Khilji. So when there was the rule of Alauddin Khilji, Mongol raised their attacks onto the Delhi, and in the early years of the Muhammad Tughlaq's rule, it means Alauddin Khilji as well as Muhammad Tughlaq both have faced the attacks of the Mongols. This forced the two rulers to mobilize a large standing army in Delhi, which posed a huge administrative challenge. So both these sultans, Alauddin Khilji as well as Muhammad Tughlaq, both have to move there or mobilize their large standing army in Delhi, which posed a huge administrative challenge after that. So let us see how these two sultans uh, have dealt with the Mongols who were basically coming towards the Delhi Sultan to attack over it. So how this Muhammad Tughlaq as well as Alauddin Khilji have tried to dealt with this condition, that we are going to see in the next part of the chapter.